So, you asked me about Anna H. Jones. It's an interesting story. Anna's, I believe, grandfather was a slave in either North or South Carolina. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But he was a skilled gunsmith. And his master allowed him to sell the guns he made and retain the earnings from the sale of the guns. And in that manner, he was able to buy his own freedom as well as the freedom, I believe, of his father and other family members. And as free blacks in the South, they were at risk. Apparently there was a racial incident, and either Jones himself, Anna's grandfather, or his father, someone in the family, spoke out about the injustice of what had been done. And they were beaten by a mob. And so they packed up and went to Canada. They were there for a number of years, I think in Chatham, Ontario, Canada. And one interesting story is that the Prince of Wales, when Canada was still a dominion of the British Empire, was scheduled to visit Canada. And this grandfather was commissioned to create, I believe, a pair of hunting guns. Well, either the meeting never took it, or somehow they were never presented. But his skill was such that he was commissioned to create this very fine pair of hunting rifles. Then they ended up in, I believe, Michigan. And Anna and almost all of her siblings, and I'd have to research it, there were either 5 or 6 Jones siblings. Most of them in Anna's generation went to Oberlin, which was a college that would accept black students in Ohio. And they got either graduated from or attended Oberlin.
This is in the late 1800s?
Yeah, probably 1860s, 70s, 80s, in that range. So Anna herself became an educator. She had a sister who was a physician, several others. Anyway, education was open to them at Oberlin, so they went. Anna was a teacher in, I believe, Kansas City. Endured some racial incidents herself, was not frightened out of the neighborhood where she was able to buy and wanted to live. But her brother came to California first, George, I believe. And I think that's the reason when Anna retired, she came here. So that would have been sometime in the teens. And the story is that when Anna arrived in Monrovia, she was surprised that there was no club, quote, for colored women, unquote, just the white women's club, which, as you might expect, was not open to women of color, nor was it open to women of Jewish ethnicity. So Anna started her own club, and it was named after her, the Anna H. Jones Club, about 1920. It existed for social purposes, and then later on it took on raising funds for scholarships. The club still exists. Anna herself died in the 1930s, but the club has been carried on since. Long-time president was Eldora Polk. Did you ever get to know Eldora? Okay. Quite a lady. She would attend the coordinating council to report on the Anna H. Jones Club. And they scheduled their event, which Eldora would mention. Turns out the fire department scheduled an event that was in conflict with hers. And a month or two later, when she was reporting at coordinating council, she said, and Ernie Mitchell was the fire chief, and she said, well, yep, I'm finally speaking to Ernie again. Great lady. And long-time president who kept things going. So it became part of a larger federation of colored women's clubs that, as I say, continues to the present day. Anna and her sister are buried down at Live Oak Cemetery. I think their brother George is buried there in a different plot, but also at Live Oak.